Hi, welcome back to West Coast Geeks. I'm your host, Joaquin. How we doing, people? You know who's with me.
Up, guys?
That's right, my boy Eric. So, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Player's Handbook, review and reading. I forgot to mention that last video. So, that's what we're doing. Part 11, hiring and henchmen, time and distance. And it's a good thing I didn't try to include that in the last video. Here, I thought we'd
Right?
get that video under like 30, maybe
Dude,
35
no
minutes,
way. We
like close to
talk too
50
much.
minutes.
You're some storytelling fools.
You know what? Just for Kicks loves it. So, speaking of which, hello, my brother. And yeah, this is I'm actually gonna drop two players handbooks videos this week. So it's the
Dude,
bonus. Yeah, because next
you
week you said
fancy.
you got a cleared up schedule.
You
So
work you working me like a dog.
right, man, you haven't been here in a while, dude.
I know.
Got to crack the
Like the
whip.
whip.
So the reason that I initially wanted to split this up because um hirelings and henchmen and
Mhm.
followers and henchmen are pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, don't play a big role in 5e at all. But
Yeah.
the game has been based on your players are supposed to be hiring help and gaining henchmen to come along with you as you gather renown.
Meat
And
shields.
yep. So a lot of these adventurers, when they say for player characters from 6 to 9, they're assuming at certain levels that your player character is going to have a henchman, and most player characters ran the henchman, but the DM had final say on his actions. Now, if your henchman had a ring of 3 wishes, and you said, Oscar is going to use this wish to do something for me, the DM can step in and be like, "No, not," you know, and
Yeah, you can't just
yeah,
willingly throw them in harm's way and expect them
yeah,
not to react because those are also based on your charisma.
yep. And so the other thing, which was cool about the henchman, if your player character died, you just you played the henchman unless they were
Yep.
until they resurrected you or whatever was going to happen with that character,
Yep.
and then that character was either dead for good or you resurrected him, but at least it did not disrupt the play of the game.
That's what I was telling you about Colmac, how he had retainers, and when he died, he finally left completely the campaign, and I took on one of his retainers as my new character.
Yeah.
Ended up being one of the bards, his herald. I ran him as a satyr bard.
Yeah, but see,
He
you're
was
you're telling
Minotaur.
the end of that real quick so we can jump into this one. You were playing a what?
It was a D&D campaign, and Martin was running it in that, so I made this Minotaur paladin. I gave him the noble background, and I chose a retainer option. So he had three little retainers that would like one would be in charge of taking the camp and then putting the tent up and cooking all the food and that, and then one would be in charge of like his horse, his armor, cleaning his armor, taking care of all that stuff, carrying it around. And then the other one, the third one, was in charge. Anytime they went into a village or a city or a town, he was basically his herald, and he would announce the arrival of the paladin. So I didn't first adventure, first session, first combat, ran into some giant spiders, and they went first. I didn't have my shield yet because I hadn't gotten it from my retainer.
That's why you take a
So
loan.
yeah, and so I got attacked. I got crit and knocked to 0 hit points like right away. I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" Failed all 3 death saves.
Yeah.
I did not do one single point of damage with this massive Minotaur, you know, paladin. He
Jesus.
got nothing. He died. So then I was like, what the hell am I gonna do now? So I was like, you know what? And the Martin's like, you got another character? I'm like, no. I said, just keep playing. So the character, the rest of the group is playing that. I'm looking through books. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make him reborn. So it's basically gonna be like a Revenant, like Eric Draven and the Crow.
Yeah.
So what I had the retainers, like one of his retainers, like, nah, forget this. I'm leaving. This is too much crazy stuff. So the other two retainers did some weird beastman ritual and raised them up as a reborn out of the Van Richten's guide.
Yeah.
So he had basically died, became not live because he wasn't really live. He was kind of in between. So he was raised up as a druid, not a paladin, because obviously, he'd been dead and all this other stuff. So I rose him up as a druid that went on to become a spore druid. And he was a little too dark for the party.
Yeah. All right.
So he eventually said, I'm leaving, blah blah blah. And then I was like, okay, fine. I run his little henchman Harold, and that was that.
Yep. And that's our intro. Dallas is gonna be like, that was 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
Like
gonna be like,
that better come off your time.
yeah, pretty much. All right.
All right.
So that right there, that story is a perfect example of hiring and henchmen. And we're gonna go over
Mhm.
that now in first edition. All right, hirelings, take us
Hirelings?
away.
All right. At any time, a character may attempt to hire various different sorts of workers, servants, or guards. The success of such hiring is entirely dependent upon the availability of the type desired, wage and bonus offers, and to some extent the character's charisma. Typical hirelings are alchemist, armorer, bearer, blacksmith, crossbowman, engineer, link boy. What the hell is a link boy?
I forgot.
I've never
I'll
heard
look
that
that
term in
up
my life.
while you're reading.
Yeah, you look at what kind of weird stuff Gygax was into.
You're like, is
Men at
that a wet
arms.
boy or what? I
Yeah.
don't even. I'm not
Link
even gonna
boy.
type
What
that
is going
in.
on, boy? I see cabin boy, men at arms, steward, teamsters, and valets. Your
Okay,
character will have to locate the whereabouts of whatever type of hirelings he or she desires to take into service, and it'll be up to your character to determine wages and salaries in the area that he or she is in.
okay, real quick. So,
Mhm.
normally they would have called these like torch bearers, but a link boy was a boy who carried a flaming torch to light the way for the pedestrians at night. Link boys were common in London in the
Right.
days before the introduction of gas lighting in the early mid-9th century. The link boy's fee was commonly 1 farthing, and the torch was
What?
often made from burning pitch and tow. So there we go.
What?
So that's the link boy. I don't know why they just didn't put
Weird.
a torch bearer, but whatever.
Or a herald or something.
No, not a herald. Herald's different, but a
I'm
torch
getting another
bearer.
herald, Joaquin.
Yep. All right.
Getting
Have your
employment
herald.
can be, yeah. Employment can be by the hour, day, week, month, or year according to the desires of the character and agreeability of the persons to be hired. Your referee will handle all such matters as they occur. The number of hirelings is in no way limited by charisma, and hirelings differ considerably from henchmen, who are discussed immediately hereafter. Loyalty of hirelings is quite similar to that of henchmen, though, and the discussion of the loyalty of henchmen can be applied to hirelings of all sorts. See henchmen hereafter. Here we got henchmen. These are your swords, sell swords, mercenaries, and those type of people. So, as discussed in the preceding section regarding character abilities, charisma has a great effect on the number of henchmen a character is able to attract. A henchman is more or less devoted follower of a character. In return for the use of his or her abilities and talents, the henchman receives support, lodging, and a share of his or her master's or mistress's earnings in the form of stipends or as a share of treasure taken. Henchmen are always of a character race. I'm sorry. Henchmen are always of a character race and character class, but are never player characters. They're basically NPCs.
Yep.
The alignment of a henchman should be compatible with that of the player character whom he or she serves. Difference in alignment will certainly affect the loyalty of all henchmen if alignment is radically different. It will usually be necessary for your character to visit various inns and drinking establishments in search of henchmen. It is also possible that a number of notices will have to be posted, perhaps in conjunction with the employment of a crier to announce the employment offered. Cost of such Cost of such is often high in rounds of drinks, foods, tips, gratuities, bribes, fees, and so forth. The cost These costs are in addition to actual sums paid to the henchmen eventually employed. Locating non-human characters such as dwarves, elves, and the like might even be more protracted, difficult, and costly than the hiring of a human and semi-human henchman. This depends on campaign circumstances, such as whether or not non humans are common in the area and whether or not non humans tend to associate with humans and frequent the inns and taverns. Once a henchman is brought into your character's service, it will be necessary to pay a wage plus support and upkeep. The referee will inform you as to such costs. The henchman accompanies your character on adventures. He or she must be given a portion of the treasure, both money and magic, just as a player character would. However, the share can be lesser, for all of the henchman's expenses are paid for by his or her master or mistress. Naturally, it is a good idea to give a henchman as much treasure as possible, for in that way the henchman gains experience points. Experience points, and this is where things get a little weird.
Yeah, well, that's because it
Experience,
was based on gold back then
yep, every you got an XP for every piece of gold.
that left the dungeon or left the area that you safely brought
Hmm.
back.
Yep. Experience awarded to henchmen is usually much less than that which would be given to a player. This is because the henchmen are acting under the direction of their master or mistress. So you should expect that your character's henchmen will get about 50% of the experience points, which their share in the slaying of opponents and garnered treasure actually totals, possibly even less if your character bore the brunt of the action and closely directed the henchmen. Loyalty of the henchman is based on many factors. Charisma of the player character is very important. Remuneration, support, upkeep, wages, bonuses, and sharing of treasure plays a big part also. The involvement of henchmen in adventuring is important, as are the activities of the character and what he requires of the henchman during the course of adventuring. For example, assuming the character has above average charisma, he or she could be somewhat less generous in remuneration and still have henchmen with about average loyalty. If remuneration or activity were above the minimum required, loyalty would be correspondingly higher. If both remuneration and activity were exceptional, the loyalty base of henchmen would be likewise exceptional. Actions to protect the lives and welfare of henchmen or saving the life of or resurrecting henchmen give loyalty above average.
Yeah,
This loyalty will come into play in combat and other stress situations. Disloyal henchmen will betray or desert their master or mistress. Dun dun dun. Love when it says during combat or moments of stress.
yep. So the C moral part, that's on page 106, which we will get to many
We
months
haven't gotten
from
there yet,
many months from now. All right.
right? We're on number 11. We're only on page 39,
I know, Jesus. Oh.
right?
Here we go.
What do you got to say about henchmen?
Yeah, well, yeah, before we talk about time and distance, I think it's a shame that 5e players look at them as XP sponges.
You shouldn't really say 5e players because that's been going on since second edition.
No, I
Shit,
had
even first edition, people didn't want they were XP sponges.
not as bad because I would always hire henchmen.
Maybe I just play with some badass groups.
You know, like my group, we always hired people. Like that wasn't like
Yeah.
or had henchmen or whatever. Like we didn't care. You know, that was
Now,
we looked at that as an additional attack or somebody
yep.
who could
Well, and
carry
that makes
who could
sense.
carry
But if you have people,
who could carry treasure and be over encumbrance by it. You know?
yeah, but a lot, sometimes when you're playing with people who are all about leveling and
Yeah.
money, and those are the two things. You dip into my XP and my gold,
Yeah,
gonna get
I
got.
guess am I above average on that? Leave a comment below because
I don't mind it. Like as I was reading it, I was like, you know what? Colmac would give his little beastman henchman more.
yeah, I'm just like,
I don't need no
I don't
money.
know. I guess I was just really fortunate, fortunate that I got introduced to the game at an early age. I became a dungeon
For the greed
master.
and
I
the
had
ennui of
Yeah, I had friends who actually neighborhood friends who played with me,
yeah.
and I didn't have to go to like go looking for people and making friends and playing this and all this other stuff that I'm hearing other people had to
Do it
go
with
through.
like-minded people.
Yeah, like and like I think that's the reason why I never went to a convention. I was just like, why? I got my friends. Why do I need to go to a convention for?
Yeah, that's true. I can see that.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying my group is bad or anything, but a lot. I know that sounds kind of bad. No, they're great guys, but it just they want to level and
Yeah,
people want to level, and
they
I'm
don't
just
believe
kind of
in the
like, I
spirit of
get
Dungeons
that.
and Dragons. It's cool.
You know,
To each his
They
own.
it's very like, they're not gonna take out loans.
Yeah.
"Oh, I can't afford this type of armor? I'll do without. I'll wait till I kill something
Yep.
to get enough money to get it." They're
Yeah. And
very
so
pragmatic in that sense.
basically your game is your game, and as a dungeon master, you are going to have to, whether you like it or not, adapt to the majority of the group, or you find a new group. And that's pretty blunt, but that's the truth. And if you have too many disruptive players and it's interfering with fun of other people, then you have to have a talk with that player. And
You have
that's
to
not a
have a
fun
talk.
talk. It's not, especially
Okay,
with your
okay.
friends, dude.
So,
Jesus.
have you ever had to have a talk with a player? I know
No.
I know we're trying to keep these low, but this is an important segue.
So, um, I've had like a few discussions
Like,
before
pull
this
aside
latest
privately?
group that I had up in Seattle. And I had a friend who was a rules lawyer and challenged me on everything, and it just really
Uh,
dragged the game down. And there was a couple of times where I talked to him, it's like I would just tell him like, "Hey man, you gotta tone it down a little bit. I know you're trying to win and that's cool, but I remember one time we were playing and I said the damage was blah blah blah. I bumped it up a point. And then out of nowhere he goes, That's not what the monster manual says." And I said,
oh,
"What?"
see, no, that's yeah.
I said, "Because
Rules
we're playing online." And so then,
yeah.
I was like, I go, "What?" I go, "Why are you reading the monster manual?" He's like, "I just want to keep you honest." I said,
Be like, "I'm not using a monster manual."
I'm just like, first of all, what you're doing right
Yeah,
there, that's cheating. Okay.
yeah.
And poor sportsmanship. And
I
second,
probably would have booted
I
him.
I can change whatever I want.
Yeah.
And
I do
so
that all the time.
yeah, and then I had another player where after the campaign ended, that's why we couldn't finish the Temple of Evil.
Uh-huh.
I just didn't invite him back to anything. I was just like,
Yeah,
okay, it's cool. I just know I'm not gonna play D&D with him, or at least I'm not gonna be the dungeon master.
right?
And then
Get somebody
another
else is doing.
dude had a breakdown because the game wasn't going his way. And so that destroyed that
Really?
group. I had 3 people I had to deal with. So
Oh,
then I
shit.
pulled Greg and Michael, and then I started looking for other players. And then
Uh,
you were like my last hope, dude, man. It's like, help me, help me, Eric
Okay,
Kenobi.
Obi-Wan. Okay, Obi
You're
Monkey.
All right, look, we got to move on because right now we're
Alright.
probably at an hour. So,
Right now, it's midnight right now.
yeah. All right.
Speaking of which, time.
So, that was it about henchmen. I always suggest that if you're not going to get a henchman, at least get a hiring. You do need somebody
You know
just
what? I think I'm gonna do that.
at least get that extra
I'm gonna take the
damage
noble
in.
background. Yeah,
Yeah,
with
just somebody with a
retainers.
light crossbow or somebody with a sword where you can watch your back or protect your right flank,
Oh,
something.
yeah. I'll have to hire henchmen, but because the retainers that you get for your background are non-combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, you
down
can
to
always
get a
hire and the thing about hireling, like you say you hire a crossbow man, they get paid per day. They don't share in the treasure unless you want to
yeah.
give them like here's an extra 5 or 10 gold pieces.
If they don't kill anything, they don't really take experience if they don't do anything.
Well, they do get in combat and they should get experience. I think there's some rules later on, and we are going to move on after this, that
Yeah.
talk about how hirelings can become henchmen after a while.
Yeah, yeah, and even they say henchmen, they only get a 50% of what they would normally get. So it's not like they're taking a whole bunch of XP.
Yeah, in
So if everybody
5e, they're
gets 100
equal.
XP, they're only getting 50.
Yeah, 5e, they're equal, dude. That's
And
funny.
well, like you said, it's more of a guideline.
Yep. All
All
right,
right,
here we go.
time.
Time and distance, very important in D&D that's no longer
Yep.
practiced.
Oh
Take us
man,
away.
it's killing me. Time in the campaign is very important. Your referee will keep strict account of the time consumed by various characters, or it is likely to separate them since not all participants are likely to play at the same actual time. Time costs characters money in support, upkeep, and wage payments. It takes time to adventure, to heal wounds, to memorize spells, to learn languages, to build strongholds, to create magic items. Very long time in the last given case. In adventuring below ground, a turn in the dungeon lasts 10 minutes. In combat, the turn is further divided into 10 melee rounds, or simply rounds. Rounds are subdivided into 10 segments for purposes of determining initiative and order of attacks. A turn is 10 minutes, a round is 1 minute, and a segment is 6 seconds.
I'm so glad they condensed that into
Uh,
5e.
it really wasn't that difficult.
No, but it's just, you know, like you have 3 definitions and you don't need 3
This is
definitions
what
of
happens when
time.
you simplify things. It never ends.
Yep.
It's getting more simplified and more simplified. It's like participation trophies. I don't get into that.
Nope.
Outdoors, time is measured in days, usually subdivided into daylight, movement, and night for rest periods. Thus, while actual time playing is about the same for a dungeon adventure, game time spent is much greater in the case of outdoor adventures.
So, before we
Distance.
get into distance, there was a reason why they gave all these rules, especially on time. So,
Yes.
they considered uh, game time to be like if you played game time where you played 3 days and then you didn't
Mhm.
meet for a week had passed. How many days that you meet again to play, those have passed. Like, it was really weird. Like, they didn't that's
Yeah,
why
I never.
they didn't really end like you to end sessions, like, in the middle of a dungeon or something like that, but
Yeah,
it was just like the reason
I
why
never
it's
came across that.
yeah, well, they talk about it. I never came across that either. They talk about it, and
Yeah,
apparently, they were fortunate enough to have, like, 20, 30 players, and they had, like, the first DM guilds, and they kept it all on the same, world, same continent, same town, same map.
crazy.
So if you went into say you went into the Caves of Chaos and you killed all the kobolds, if another group came the next day, literally the next day, and walked in there, they would have found out that somebody had already cleared out the kobolds. So it was incentive for people to get together and play because they would miss out on stuff.
Fall behind, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why they give all these rules for time and stuff, and they're gonna get into more detail on the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yeah, there's really it goes really deep into Dungeon Masters.
I mean, I'm kinda glad we don't play that way because that's just
Yeah,
crazy.
that's crazy. Like I said, I never ran across that.
Yep, here we go, distance.
All right, for purpose of game distances are basically one third with respect to spell and missile range from outdoors to indoors underground situation. Thus, most ranges are shown as inches in by means of the symbol. Here we get into all that stupid. Oh,
Yep,
it's such a mess. I.e., 1 inch, etc. Outdoors, 1 inch equals 10 yards because it's all standard imperial.
yep.
1 inch equals 10 yards. Indoors, 1 inch equals 10 feet. So somehow, 1 inch indoors is actually longer than it is. Oh, no, no, no. I'm sorry. 10 yards, 10 feet. Okay. It's
No,
3 feet,
10
10
yards is
yards.
longer, 10 yards is like 30
It's
feet.
30 feet.
And
Yeah.
there's a reason why they did that because when you're making a
No, no, it
map
makes sense. I
yeah,
just read it wrong. That's
yeah.
all. I thought indoors. I was like, wait a minute. Such a ratio is justifiable to some extent, regardless of game considerations. Actual effective range of an arrow shot from a longbow is around 210 yards maximum. In a clear light and open terrain, underground with little light and low ceiling overhead, a bow shot of 210 feet is about maximum. So it's about a third of the distance. Archery implies arching bows. Slings in this category are used to hurl darts. Slings in this category are as Slings are in this category as are hurled darts and javelins, all arching in flight to achieve distance. Crossbows are a notable exception, but under the visibility conditions of a dungeon setting, the yards to feet conversion is not unreasonable because there is no arch; those are straight shots. Magic and spells are most certainly devices of the game. In order to make them fit the constrictions of the underground labyrinth, a 1 for 3 reduction is necessary. It would be folly, after all, to try and have such as effective attack modes Feet were not converted to yards outdoors, where visibility, movement, and conventional weapon attack ranges are based on actual fact. Distance, scale, and areas of effect for spells and missiles are designed to fit the game. Tripling of range outdoors is reasonable as it allows for recreation of actual ranges. Recreation, I said recreation, I'm English. Actual ranges for hurled javelins, arrows fired from longbows, or whatever. In order to keep magic spells on par, their range is also tripled. It is imperative that outdoor scale be used for range only, never for spell area of effect. So you're not having some fireball take a blow up the size of a city block outside, unless a figure ratio of 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 is used, and constrictions such as buildings, castles, walls, etc., are scaled to figures rather than to ground scale. Note that the foregoing assumes that the ground scale of 1 inch to 10 yards is used. All that was in capitals, by the way.
Yep.
Movement scale is kept as flexible as possible in order to deal with the multitude of applications it has, i.e., dungeon movement, exploring and otherwise, city travel, treks through the outdoors, and combat situations arising during the course of any such movements. Your referee will have information which will enable him or her to adjust the movement rate, the applicable time scale for any situation. That is distance.
Yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Monster, the term.
Huh.
Look at that. Woo!
These filthy little monsters. Looks like a 1930s horror fest.
Nope.
Got Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney, Boris Karloff. I think Bela Lugosi played the Phantom of the Opera too.
Oh, did he? I don't
Believes
think so.
those three actors played all kinds.
All right. So we just got to finish up the monster terms and character spells, and then we can do the wrap
Oh, we're
up.
doing month. Oh, I thought we were
Yeah, no,
stopping
we're
at
taking
monster
it all
term.
the way down because the next video
Oh,
after
oh, all
this
right
will
then.
be.
Jesus. So monster the term. We're not doing character spells, right? We're
Yes,
saving
we
that for
are.
the
You're
character.
reading that because we're going to jump right into first level spells next video for this.
Well, then people might not know. People might not miss. What if they miss this one? We're just gonna jump into spells. They're gonna be like, "Hey, wait a minute. Where's the intro?"
You know what? When we do the intro for the spells, we're going to be like, if you missed the character spell section, then go watch the last video.
Oh my god. The term monster. It is necessary to stress that the usage of the term monster is generic for any creature encountered during the course of adventuring. Monster can be exactly what the name implies, or it can be a relatively harmless animal, friendly, intelligent beast, crazed human, a band of dwarves, a thief. Virtually anything or anyone potentially threatening or hostile.
Hmm.
When your referee indicates your character has encountered a monster, that simply indicates a confrontation between your character and some type of creature is about to take place. The results of such a meeting will depend on many factors, including the nature of the monster and your character's actions. All monsters are not bad.
Lesser Drow. Hashtag leave a comment below.
That's a
All right, here we go. Last part to finish it up.
character spell. This seems like sacrilege, Joaquin.
It is, but
This
got to be done so we
oh
could just segue straight into
my
first
goodness.
level character spells.
Feel like I'm chopping the head off of a doll and just leaving the head.
Look, I'm telling you right there, it shows in the video character spells. All right, too late
Not
to
if you block it.
edit it.
Not if you block it. You know, if I'm holding up my little blocker and I don't see it at all.
Nope, got to push forward.
The casting of spells, clerical and magical, is a very important aspect of play. Most spells have a verbal component and so must be uttered. Most spells also have a somatic movement of the caster's body, such as gesturing component. Some spells have a third component, that of material. Clerical spells, including the druidic, are bestowed by the gods, so that the cleric need but pray for a few hours, and the desired verbal and somatic spell components will be placed properly in his or her mind. First, second, third, and even fourth level spells are granted to the cleric through meditation and devout prayer. This spell giving is accomplished by the lesser servants of the cleric's deity. Fifth, sixth, and seventh level spells can be given to the cleric only by the cleric's deity directly,
Ooh,
not through some intermediary source.
dang.
Note that the cleric, yeah, you're talking straight to Jesus, son. Know that the cleric might well be judged by his or her deity at some time. Oh, great. Now not only are you going to make me beg for spells, now you're going to judge my ass.
Yep.
You're unworthy. While the deity may grant such spells full willingly, a deed or sacrifice, atonement, or abasement may be required. Beg. I want you to beg.
Bitches.
The deity might also ignore specific spell requests and give the cleric some other spell or none at all. What?
Yep.
Be like, oh, I need this resurrection spell. What was this? Power word kill? That's
Nope.
not even my class.
You're messing up my story.
Oh my god. That's messed up. Your dungeon master will handle this considering a cleric's alignment and faithfulness to it and his or her deity. I pray, Lo, pray that you resurrect this high elf princess that I found. Just give me a chance. Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Power word kill.
Nope. Remember that time you
Oh.
almost tried to disrupt my game in
Remember that
Curse of
time you squished
Strahd?
a spider? You got scared there was a spider in your room and you smashed it? I felt it.
That's real
Felt
thing.
it deep down.
No
Note
spell for
that some
you.
no resurrection. No high elf for you. Note that some cleric spells and all druid spells also require material ingredients in order for the desired effect to take place. Such components must be supplied by the cleric or druid as material is not bestowed.
Better find that.
Wow. Magical spells, those of the magic user and illusionist, are not bestowed by any supernatural force.
Yep.
Rather, the magic user or illusionist must memorize each spell, verbal and somatic components, and supply himself or herself with any required materials as well. Such memorization requires a character to consult his or her spell books in order to impress the potent mystical spell formulae upon the mind. Additional items for the material component must then be acquired if necessary. Spells of any sort must therefore be selected prior to setting out on an adventure, for memorization requires considerable time. Your dungeon master will inform you fully as to what state of refreshment mind of a spellcaster must be in, as well as the time required to memorize a given spell. I don't know, whenever I see the term refreshment, I think of Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction. This is tasty burger. You mind if
Yeah.
I have some of this Sprite to wash this down? Random. As a rule of thumb, allow 15 minutes of game time for memorization of one spell level, i.e., a first level spell or half of a second level spell. Wait, you can remember half of a second
I
level
don't know.
spell?
They're really
It's crazy
stretching.
pants. Such activity requires a mind rested by good sleep and nourishment and nourished by the body. Once cast, a spell is totally forgotten. Ugh, duh. I hated that.
Yep.
Gone. So basically, you are nothing but a conduit
Yep.
for battery. That always annoyed me. Mystical symbols impressed upon the brain carry power, and speaking the spell discharges this power, draining all memory of the spell used. This does not preclude multiple memorization of the same spell, but it does preclude multiple use of a single spell memorized but once. When a spellcaster shoots his or her spell bolt, so to speak, it is gone. As previously shown in the character classes section, the number of spells usable by a character depend upon class and level. Details of spell castings are given later in the section of combat. The nature and components of various spells are given in the section immediately after the spell tables. These spell descriptions are also these spell descriptions also contain such information as is pertinent, i.e., range, duration, effect, etc. Your dungeon master may add or delete from a spell or spells, and may even add or delete entire spells. Man, give him too much power.
Yep.
Will inform you of these changes prior to selecting the spells or after he's already used them to transport you to another plane and back, or when
Yes.
new spells become available to your character.
Yep. Basically, your spell is really breaking the campaign right now. So,
Right?
and now that you've
Now I'm like,
casted it, you can't remember it, but it's in my spell
right?
book.
I
Yeah,
know
you're
some
not. There's
D&Ds.
just something you're not understanding.
I know some DMs that have like banned wish spells.
Ooh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, because they just get too cumbersome and make things too difficult.
yep,
Material components for spells are assumed to be kept in little pockets, little tiny pockets, like that one in your jeans pants right above the regular pocket.
yeah, for your coins.
Boy, those are for your material components, man.
Yeah, your
Your bit
coins.
of dust.
I'd like to
Your
spend my
coin,
material components to buy the Snicker
my
bar.
material. I would like to buy that piece of gum, please. Material components for spells are assumed to be kept in little pockets, stored in the folds and small pockets of the spellcaster's garb. Of course, some materials are too bulky, and in these cases, the materials must be accounted for carefully. Also, some materials are rare, and these must be found and acquired by the spell user. Special cases which pertain to each class of type spell using character type will be noted for each set of spell explanations.
All right, here we go. The wrap up. So we made it. Part 12, first level cleric spells. So we hit on a couple of interesting topics. Well, I hope you guys found them interesting. If you made it this far, hit the like button. Help, excuse me, help support the channel by subscribing. Let your friends know who play D&D that we're doing the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition history, and we're going through all the books and we're discussing them and giving our opinion. So, Eric, what did you find interesting of what you just read?
I like, well, again, I always miss the speed factor, all the different, what are they called?
What,
I'm at a blank
what the
right now.
weapon speed?
Mind is mush. Yeah.
That was
But
last
the only,
video. I'm talking about this one. We're talking about hirelings and
see, this, I told you my mind is mush,
yep,
all that reading.
yep,
So I like hirelings. I'm gonna really consider this the next campaign we play of yours. I not only will I have my retainers, a faithful band of followers, but I will think about considering a henchman.
yeah.
Got to think of his role though. What role will he play?
See what's that? So, I always found the concept of time to be interesting because uh, we don't really we don't keep track of time in D&D like we're supposed to.
Yeah,
And even like with traveling, we just half the time the DM just assumes you get there because most players don't want
and
to
no, I
role
roll for
play that.
encounters every day.
Yep. And so,
If it takes you 4 days to get there,
yeah.
I'm gonna roll 3 times for each day,
Yeah, there should be an
morning,
encounter.
noon, and night. Oh,
So, we're at under 40, which is actually a short video for us.
yeah, right.
There's your second video for the week for the Player's Handbook. You're welcome, just for kicks. And anybody else who's been following this series, we appreciate it. Please leave a comment below. Any questions you want, I will make a video about it. The one guy, I can't remember his name offhand, he commented on a video that he found of ours 6 months ago, and I made the underground. Even though it got a little shoddy at the end or in the middle of it, towards the end, you can still hear me clearly discuss his question. So leave a question below if there's something you want us to cover.
Sabotaged by Loth because you did it without me.
Yeah, yeah, I knew Eric cursed it. All right.
That
With that, people, I hope you
was
enjoyed
a
this
6 or 7
video.
spell.
And what 4th of July is on a Tuesday, right? I believe
Yep.
so. Oh yeah, and we're playing on
Tuesday.
Monday.
Yep.
We're playing Monday D&D. So happy 4th of July, people. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and we'll catch you next week.
Take it easy, guys.